Hello, folks. Welcome again to a weekly daily inspirational class slash uh, whatever you want to call it. Let me just get my screens are a little bit off here. All right. As usual, I'm going to read to you the last 7 daily inspirations, the titles, and then you guys can choose one of them and we can go from there. And these are it. November 18th, the end of war begins within us. November 19th, ending the ego's guilt game. November 20th, this world is a reflection of the thoughts we think. November 21st, feel free to feel your feelings. November 22nd, success and honoring your journey. November 23rd, 2 ways to view judgment. And November 24th, healing the world by healing our thoughts. So, any of those anyone finds of interest?
The one about war, if nobody else.
The one about war. Okay, the end of war begins within us.
Yeah.
That's November 18th. All right, it's a condensed version. It's 2 paragraphs long. And I'll go ahead and read the 2 paragraphs and then make a little comment on it. And then we can go from there. Okay. November 18th, the end of war begins within us. Paragraph 1. We have been programmed by the ego to believe that we're separate from other people. The belief in this false concept is one of the reasons that war and other human conflicts are possible. According to the ego, if we are separate from other people, then what we do to them will not affect us. Yet how many times have we become angry, judged, and condemned another without encountering the lingering stench of guilt, shame, and regret? How many times have we convicted people as guilty and yet found ourselves in prison with them within our own mind?
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we attacked another through thoughts, words, or actions and not felt the heavy burden of the consequences of our deeds? Everything we offer another must first flow through us. And thus we heal or poison ourselves with every thought we think of them, word we share, and action we take. Paragraph 2. Peace is an expression of the love that created us. It is our true eternal essence, nature, foundation, and home. Any thought or emotion that tries to place itself in opposition to peace is a seed of conflict. Some seeds of conflict are such things as judgment, frustration, anger, anxiousness, fear, resentment, hate, guilt, shame, and revenge. When we attack another, be it through thoughts, words, or actions, being all one, we are attacking ourselves. We cannot attack ourselves and also find peace in our mind and joy in our heart. Today, let us recall that thanks to free will, in any moment, we can deny the ego's demands for war. When we consciously decline to align with and support the non-loving thoughts, we pave our path to peace. Today, let us consciously practice aligning our mind with thoughts that will help us pave our peaceful path. As we do, let us behold conflict. Let us behold conflict begin to dissolve before our love, light, wisdom, mercy, and grace. That's the end of paragraph 2. Okay. And so the basic idea here is don't underestimate the power of your thoughts. Okay? Your thoughts can either heal you or your thoughts can poison you. And so no matter how much the ego says that that person out there is worthy of your judgment, of your resentment, of your anger, if the ego convinces you to do that, it is unconsciously convincing you to poison yourself. Because where do those thoughts first have to flow through? Through you. And so if you have an anger thought, it comes through the heart, to the mind, to the vocal cords. But it either poisons you, or if it's a loving thought, a forgiving thought, a thought of mercy and grace, it heals you as you offer it. And so what is your brother or sister really doing for you in each interaction? They are offering you the opportunity to heal yourself through your own thoughts. Okay? And so when you start to recognize that all they're really doing beneath the surface of the ego's stories, if they're offering you an opportunity to choose love over fear, forgiveness over judgment, and thus peace over pain. And so in each interaction, that's what they are truly offering you. The opportunity to see if you think that you are worthy of peace or you think you are unconsciously worthy of pain. Because whatever you're offering them, you are experiencing yourself. Whatever you're offering them, you think you're worthy of, unconscious as that may be.
Wow.
And so when the ego says to judge, remember where that road has taken you before. Where has the road of judgment, of anger, of resentment, of shame, of guilt, where have those roads taken you to? They have never delivered to you the state of peace, the state of joy. They have never delivered to you that, no matter what the ego says. And so why keep traveling down a road that never gets you to your desired destination? Why? Why continue to support thoughts that never support you or the life you want? And so now, if you're not experiencing the peace of mind and joy in your heart that you want, start to recognize it is not because of something out there that is stopping me from experiencing this. It is because of the thoughts that I'm choosing, the words that I'm using, and the actions that I'm taking that are driving me towards peace or away from peace. And this is really good news. And why is it good news? Because the power to achieve peace in your mind and joy in your hearts does not reside out there in the physical world. It does not reside in 8 billion people acting exactly the way that you want them to. Because if they don't act exactly or think the way you want them to, then the ego says, then I cannot have peace. I cannot have peace until they change. Once they change, then maybe I can have some peace. And so one of the ego's tricks is search but do not find. And so the ego is never going to deliver to you what you truly want and what you truly desire, which is peace and joy and being a light in the world. And so just remember that each and every brother that comes your way today or tomorrow or the next day is offering you that opportunity to remember that you can indeed become a light in this world by choosing thoughts that align you with the mind of God with love. And when you keep on choosing positive, loving thoughts, you keep on reinforcing this foundation, and then this foundation becomes more natural and normal for you. Once you start to realize that, you know what, when I forgive somebody instead of judgment, I have a little more peace. When I trust God instead of have fear, I have a little more peace and a little more joy. So you know what, this kind of feels good. I kind of like this. So the more you practice doing that, the more you'll see, yeah, you know what, I belong offering God's loving expressions to my brothers and sisters and to myself. And so that's roughly what this daily inspiration is about. Any comments or questions?
I love the line, we heal or poison ourselves with every thought we think. I think it's so simple and so powerful. And it's so interesting how we just never learn that's we're taking ourselves down a negative road or a positive road or whatever road we want to go just with our thoughts. So I really like that one. Thanks.
I had a question. I I'm curious. I want to hear about your experience and like knowing when to disengage. Um, I guess what I'm thinking is like we all have different levels of like emotional and spiritual capacity of being able to navigate things and deal with things. And even though I do believe that we're always here to be truly helpful and everything is perfect, is there a time in which the answer is also to disengage? And what has that looked like for you? And like, what's your experience around that? Or how has it changed, just as you've grown? Or whatever it is that comes to mind for you in regards to that.
Yeah, you always disengage when you have more peace disengaging than engaging. And so only you can ever truly answer that question for yourself. Okay, does it bring me more peace to disengage now than to keep on engaging? And so simply ask yourself that question. And then you can answer that question for yourself when that exact moment is. And if you feel like you need to disengage, then don't feel any kind of guilt. You know, if that's what you think brings you peace at the moment, it's perfectly fine to disengage. It's perfectly fine to set up loving boundaries, that you decide that people shouldn't cross. And that's okay. Because remember, wherever you're at, no matter what the ego says, no matter where you're at, you're always at your highest level of development. Okay? So you're always at your highest level of consciousness. So you can never truly make a mistake in your development process. It's only the ego that's going to judge your process. The ego's going to tell you something like, oh no, to be spiritual, you have to keep engaging. Even though that keeping engaging brings you a sense of fear or resentment or whatever it is, if it's bringing you some sense of fear that or saying that, you know what, I just don't feel good here right now doing this, the ego's going to try to keep you engaged. Okay. But no, if you feel more peace disengaging, then disengage. It's fine. Everything's going to turn out all right. Life is in God's hands. And so all you have to do is say, you know what, right now, I tried forgiveness. I've tried compassion. I've tried understanding. I tried to do the best I could to bring peace to my brother or sister and be a light for them. But that's not working right now. They're not quite listening right now.
Exactly. Okay.
So you know what? Right now, I feel a little more peaceful taking a step back. And just, maybe not communicating with them for a little while or whatever source says. And so once you start to feel, you know what, I think I have a little more peace if I re-engage, then re-engage. And so it's not about when do you not engage or disengage, or when do you re-engage or do not re-engage. It's always about what brings you peace. Okay, so allow your decision to be, you can say, okay, peace. You can say, God, love, peace. What would you have me do right now? And then if it makes it more peaceful to disengage, you disengage. It makes it more peaceful to keep engaging, you keep engaging. And so on and so forth. And so you can always consciously just step back and invite God, love, peace to lead the way, and do what peace would do. But what peace do right now, and then do what peace would do. So it's not as complicated as the ego would have you try to think that it is. It's always the same answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the ego will say, well, this person here, because this person does this, they are not deserving of my forgiveness or compassion or grace. But this person here, he did only this, so he's worthy. So see, the ego is always about levels. Because if the ego cannot catch you here in the state of judgment, then maybe if the person does why, then maybe the ego can keep you attached to judgment here. And so when you're attached to judgment, when you're attached to the ego's tools and mindset, then the ego gets to survive and thrive through you. But we say that there's no order of difficulty in miracles, right? And so what we practice doing as the light of the world is to try to forgive, to try to have mercy and grace, to try to see our brothers and sisters only through God's eyes, only through love's lens. But yes, there are some times when it brings us a little more peace to step back a little bit, take some time, and that's perfectly fine. So don't feel like you're not being spiritual because you have to disengage. That's just the ego's little games.
Yeah, that's what I'm recognizing. Thank you. I think that my ego makes it very black and white. That's what was coming to mind as you were sharing. Like, again, this is spiritual, this is not spiritual. You're here to be helpful, you're not being helpful. And then making me feel guilty if I disengage. But it's true, like, not everyone's ready to listen or is capable of listening, or maybe I'm not the one to be the one to share whatever needs to be shared, and I can say my piece and then just allow spirit to do the rest. Like, I don't have to continue to engage. Because I've noticed that for me, like, that's where also the negative thoughts can start to come in about my brother, not my actual brother, but
Yeah.
like about the other person, because I'm like trying to be the light of the world, and then I'm over engaging, and then I'm like, no, I need to move out of this because they're not getting it, it's not happening, and now I'm getting resentful. So I'd rather disengage before the negative thoughts start to like pile themselves up. Like there's like a sweet spot before you're like sucked into it, and then you're like, now my thoughts are also almost poisoned. So thank you, that was very helpful.
Yeah, that's a little trick of the ego too. Okay, you physically disengage, right? Because that brings you peace, right? And then the ego comes along and says, "Oh my God, I can't keep her engaged." Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whisper to her as she should be engaged. So then the ego comes into your mind, into your thoughts, and so the ego will try to torture you that way. And so anytime the ego tries to judge you and judge yourself for whatever you did to bring you peace, the ego's not going to go quietly into the sweet night. That's not what the ego does. The ego tries to survive, and so the ego will come back and say, engage again. It doesn't matter if it doesn't bring you peace. The right thing is to engage. Just go ahead and engage. And then remember, okay, wait a second. Either my thoughts control me or I control my thoughts. And it's very simple to note when that's happening. When your thoughts are controlling you, they're filled with anxiousness, with doubt, with fear, with resentment, with regret, with shame, with guilt. Anytime that's happening, it's your thoughts, the ego's tools and mind past programs that are controlling your mind. Okay? So when that happens, when the ego starts to whisper, no, re-engage, and you don't feel peace about it, you'll say, okay, wait a second. That's my ego trying to take over control of my mind. My job right now is to take back control of my mind. So how do I take back control of my mind? By doing the opposite of what the ego is demanding. So when the ego is demanding to re-engage, even though I feel a lack of peace doing so, no, you stop. Wait a second. I'm here to be the light of the world. One of the expressions of this light is peace. And so I'm going to do right now what brings me peace. I'm going to take back control of my mind and thinking by aligning my mind with love and its expressions. And one of love's expressions is peace. And so, no, I'm not going to do what the ego is recommending. I'm going to do what still brings me peace. And so you go ahead and you quiet the mind. So I'm going to do what brings me peace now. And right now I'm going to pray for my brother or sister. And I'm only going to send them loving, positive thoughts and healing thoughts. And I'm going to place them in God's hands. I'm going to say, God, please, I'm asking through my heart that my brother and sister is filled with light, with love, with healing, with giving your mercy and your grace. And that's how I want to think about my brother and sister, no matter what my ego says. This is what I want. And then when you do that, you begin to you heal yourself, and your light becomes brighter and brighter, and you see that, you know what, this is the state of mind that where I really belong, because I feel good offering my brother love's expressions, even though my ego disagrees with that. And so, yeah, be aware of your thoughts. They can your ego can try to take control of your life by taking control of your mind, through taking control of your thoughts. And so the birthplace is the thoughts. Wendy has her hand up.
Yeah, so that's actually, I'm glad you were talking about that, because I'm wondering, for me, is not so much, it's easier for me if I'm having a problem with somebody else to try to, I'm going to call this the program, to work this program. You know what I mean? To like, I'm worthy of peace, love, here only to be truly helpful, to guide myself through releasing grievances or whatever. I've gotten, I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but sure, a lot better than I was. I can work through even something bad in a couple of days instead of what used to just ruin me for weeks. But what I am finding I'm struggling with is the dealing with my own stuff. So somebody could be talking just like here, and all of a sudden I'll just get a wave of shame. I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. I didn't have an interaction. All I have to do is listen to it. You know what secondhand embarrassment is? Similar to that. Somebody does something and they're embarrassed, and it'll flood me. But this is something else. I know it's my ego, but I don't really know how to get around it because I'm not always aware of the thought that's behind it. You know what I mean? Like it's playing a little hide and seek there. It's this, but it's a negative feeling. It's a bad feeling. It puts me, so I'll tell I'm worthy of peace. I'm a holy child of God. Like, I can walk myself through that. But the feeling sometimes it doesn't just like I'm sitting with it right now. I have no, you know what I mean? Could be anything. Could be Christina said she wants to disengage with somebody, and my mind is going, oh, that's probably you, because that's, how crazy I am. And it's just how my brain does that to me. And I think it's a good thing in that I may have gotten good enough with dealing with my issues with other people that I'm now ready to try to deal with all the crazy that's, just directed at me. But I don't really know the proper thing to do when it first appears, other than recognize that it's there. So is there something you recommend that is helpful for that?
Yeah, the first thing is the ego is going to want you to judge the situation, right? And then the ego's going to want you to judge yourself for judging the situation. That's the ego's little delusional game. And so let's say somebody's expressing some level of fear, and somehow you react to that. And
Yeah.
it's not even your fear, it's their fear, right?
Yeah.
And so the ego's saying, oh my God, you are so spiritual because you're feeling their fear. It's okay to feel their fear because you're a spiritual person. So the ego is very, very tricky. Okay. You don't belong anywhere near fear or the state of fear. It's only the ego, when the ego is in control of your mind, that you think, if I fear with my sister here, then this is going to help my sister. But let's say if you walk into a dark room and you don't have a flashlight, you're both in the dark, and nobody's getting out of the room or the cave or whatever. And so all you have to do is, okay, I'm feeling the fear that this other person is feeling for no reason at all. Just I'm feeling it. Okay, just practice not judging yourself for being out of alignment with where you belong. You belong where? In the state of peace. Align with love, and peace is an expression of that love. So this is where you belong here. You don't belong there. Okay? You don't belong in fear. That's not your job here on earth. Okay? The ego wants you there because that's how the ego survives. It's by saying, listen, oh look, that person has fear and you have fear. Therefore, obviously, you and her cannot be part of a perfect, all-loving, peaceful God. So if you're not part of a perfect, all-loving, peaceful God, then you must be part of me, the ego. So yeah, go ahead, fear. It's okay to fear. It's spiritual. Okay. Okay. So first, you don't judge yourself for that. Okay. You just practice recognizing quicker and quicker when you are out of alignment with who you came here to be. You came here to be peace. So what do? You stop, you recognize that you're out of alignment, okay? And you stop placing your time, focus, and energy on this delusion, okay? Then you remind yourself where you belong. You belong in the state of peace. Okay. And then you put your time, focus, and energy on being a light in the world, of being a peaceful source for your sister. And asking source, how can I bring peace to my sister? Instead of how can I join my sister in fear? Okay. And so you do the same thing over and over again. You don't punish yourself for being out of alignment. You just recognize you're out of alignment with who you're meant to be. Okay. You stop placing your time, focus, and energy on that. You come back into alignment. You do the opposite of what the ego demands. The ego demands fear. You say, no, 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 no. I've played that game 1,000 times before. It never delivers to me the peace that I want. I come back to peace. Come back to peace by saying, you know what? I'm going to place this in God's hands. And I know that God is perfect love and He's in control and all will be all right. And so you become a peaceful light to your sister. And now you can be that light at the end of the tunnel for your sister instead of joining her in the darkness. And you just do that over and over and over again. And the more times you practice going from out of alignment to alignment, the less time you will spend here and the more time you'll spend here.
Okay, so it's an in the moment thing. I think I was
Yes.
more along the lines of if I have just some kind of huge, by the way, your ego is a lot nicer than mine. My ego never tells me I'm so spiritually elevated because I feel like another person does. I don't ever get that message. I'd probably be happier if I did. But I was asking, like, I'm think I'm getting that it's like within the instant because I was thinking I have, 57 years of shame building and all kinds of stuff that I would just love to get out because I just feel like it's standing in the way of a lot of things. But maybe maybe everything is in the moment you feel it, that you move the practice, like you said, like building a muscle to bring it back to alignment. There's nothing to do to like sort of purge yourself of your reservoir of crap, right?
Well, I mean, you might try therapy, weekly therapy.
Um, I,
Try
always,
it. You're hilarious. Decades. Go on.
you
There's
know,
no trying. I swum in it. Go ahead. This helped
yeah.
me way more than therapy ever has. I'm not saying therapy didn't help at all, but this was far more help. The Course in Miracles has helped me in a year do what decades of therapy, couldn't do, which is deliver me peace of mind for more peace of mind than I ever felt. But go on. Sorry.
The good thing is, listen, you're in control, okay? And that's the good news. Just remember, you're in control of the thoughts you're thinking. I can place my time, focus, and energy on the thoughts that will support the life that I want. I can stop supporting with my time, focus, and energy thoughts that don't deliver to me the life I want. Okay, just keep reminding yourself of that and stop and consciously stop investing your time on thoughts that do not deliver to you the life you want.
Yeah, I try to move away from them as soon as I recognize what's happening. I think it's more like I would like not to be so reactive that happens, that I get triggered in those ways. But I guess the way that the course is presented is the triggering is showing you where you have an issue and that you're going to just keep working on it as long as it comes up. Right. That's just
Yeah,
how.
that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
The ego would have you judge yourself for not being spiritual enough, or not learning the material quick enough, or not whatever, applying it. That's the ego. Judgment is of the ego. And so
Yeah.
don't judge yourself for your growth process. Your growth process is perfect. It's been
Yeah.
co-designed with the divine, and so it's perfect for you. And so
Okay.
whatever your pace is sacred.
All right. Well, I don't love the reactivity, but I do appreciate the, hearing that my reactivity is perfect, although it may not feel it. Okay. Thank you, James. You always help me.
Christina, you have your hand up.
yeah, I actually wanted to piggyback on what Wendy said because I had an experience and it's interesting how like all these different things interconnect and they really do help the course with therapy, with everything because um and then of course like our conversation around the ego, a friend of mine asked me yesterday to join her for coffee and she was like, there's something I need to talk to you about. And so all of a sudden my ego was like, great, what did I do? What is she gonna tell me? Like what happened? And it went down this like spiral. And my initial reaction was one of fear. And I wanted to be like, what's going on? Or I wanted to have an answer then and there. But then my second thought was like, everything is perfect. Like, let it be. And when you see her tomorrow, she'll share with you whatever that she has to share with you. And we ended up meeting for coffee, and she was just sharing with me that she's pregnant. It had nothing to do with me. But my initial reaction was, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I say something? And I personalized something that had nothing to do with me. And in the end, it was news that was just good news. And so what I was able to, because I've been doing grief work on the side, and I've been recognizing that because of my past and because of my fear response that comes out as a result of having experienced the death of my sister, I don't like surprises. I don't like confusion. I don't like to feel out of control in my environment. And when someone tells me they need to talk to me about something and they don't really elaborate what else it's about, and I have to wait for 24 hours before I then get to know what it's about, that feels like a loss of control. And being able to interconnect those things in the moment, because I've been doing so many other things on the side, as well as the course helps me pause. The course helps me recognize my ego. The course helps me go to spirit and remember that everything is perfect. But when I have a physical reaction in my body to something, it's these other things that do help me. And I'm able to be like, oh, wow, like this is where my need for control comes in, or the fear that I get when I don't know something that's around the corner because of XYZ. So I do think, and this isn't, I mean, I've been doing the course for some time, Wendy, and I've been doing therapy for a very long time, but I think that it always continues to build on itself. It really is a journey, and it's things like this that I continue to unpack that I'm like, oh, and when I think I got it figured out, I don't. Like, there's always another layer to everything. So I don't, unless we become like enlightened masters and we take these like quantum leaps into enlightenment, I think that we're always, continuing to grow and learn.
Christina, you just helped me so incredibly much. First of all, I feel like we're spiritually twinning, because I would have had the exact same reaction if somebody said, I have to tell you something or I have to talk to you.
Terrible.
I would be a wreck for the next however long it took, going over and every interaction in my mind. What did I say that offended her? What did I do that got her upset? I would be doing the exact same thing. I'm like you. And that was so helpful that you talked about a loss of control, because I can see the same thing from my own past, never knowing what's coming. And, it could be horrible. And you're like sort of trying to prepare yourself for whatever's going to happen to you that's terrible. So that was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so two things is one is the experience helped you practice remembering that you can trust God. You can trust God more. You can use the situation to practice trusting God more. So even if you did have to wait those 24 hours, you can also use those 24 hours to put that fear in God's hands, or put that anxiousness in God's hands. And in the meanwhile, achieve the state of peace by placing it in God's hands whenever that anxiousness comes into your mind. And so that's an opportunity that your sister offered you by giving you that situation. And so obviously gratitude is the response to her for giving you the opportunity to practice placing that time, instead of it in the fear in the hands of the ego with anxiousness and doubt and worry, in the hands of God, so you can achieve peace. And then also on the physical form, you can always also, there's nothing wrong with talking to your friend and say, listen, sometimes when this kind of situation happens, this whole surprise thing, and you can explain to her why, kind of triggers me a little bit. So if you don't mind, next time something like that happens, do you mind telling me what it is about? And she'll understand. There's nothing wrong with it.
You know
I
what?
thought about that because that's the second time she's done something like that to me. And I thought about that. I was like, maybe I should express, like, if you have to tell me something, don't what is it called when like you pre is it preempt it?
Okay.
Or when you like whatever, you don't give me like a don't give me a pre anything, let's just meet for coffee,
And what James said works. I did that with a friend of mine, but I've known her since I was 12. For whatever reason, I was like machinating in my mind that she was upset with me, and I knew she wasn't, but my mind would not leave me alone. This was like a year ago. And it just kept telling me that, she was upset with me. She was upset with me, and I couldn't clear it. It was before Course in Miracles. I couldn't clear it. I couldn't get it to go away. And I thought, I'm just going to suffer until this is cleared up. So I text her and I said, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I have anxiety issues. And for some reason, my brain keeps telling me that you're upset with me. And I just want to get it out there and hear from you so I can put this to bed. And she texted me back and said, tell your anxiety to F off. Although she didn't use F, she used the full word. But for James, I'm going to clean it up. And she said, of course, I'm not mad at you. And if I were, I would tell you. And I was like, oh, thank God. And that was the end of it, And I was like, I'm so glad I contacted her, because otherwise, who knows how long it would have taken me to get rid of it. It's just, it takes a lot out of you to fight with anxiety like that. So I like these new ways of just like getting to the point, getting it out of the way, handing it over to God, whatever it takes to not sit there and suffer over everything. Thank you.
Yeah, so you do it on both levels, on the physical level, and on the physical level, duality, and on the level 2, so to speak, and of the ego's world. Yeah, you go ahead and text your friend and say, listen, do you mind telling me what this is about? And on the spiritual level, until that happens, you just place it in God's hands and practice seeing what happens when you place your anxiety in God's hands. And the more you practice placing your anxiety and your worry and your doubt and fear in God's hands, the more and more peace you start experiencing. And then you start to see, wow, man, you know what? This kind of placing my fear in God's hands, understanding that He's perfect love and that I have co-designed my journey with Him, and therefore all will be all right. This feels good. So let me keep on doing this. So
And
yeah.
I was just going to say what Christina said was so brilliant. Like I would have never made that connection. And now like, I feel like this whole thing that a lot of anxiety, a lot of all this stuff is just control issues, like I don't think I would have connected that. And like, that gives me a really good place. I didn't mean to cut you off, James, but that's such a, like I didn't realize that. And it's really powerful to at least know what it might be stemming from, because a lot of saying, okay, I'm going to hand this over to God it's laying down control. It's saying I am not going to be in control, and not being in control is scary. There is some level of fear attached to that, because if you're out of control, that feels scary. And so this whole thing about trusting and saying, okay, I'm willing to say I don't have this, and I'm going to put it in somebody else's hands and see, God's hands, and see what happens. That is a big, that expression, leap of faith. That's no joke. It's a big leap.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Go ahead in the chat, Gaynord. I'll read it for you if you want, or you can say it too. It says, it feels like this message was meant for me today. Absolutely what I was dealing with, trying not to react to being attacked, not physically. I was able to respond with love. It was hard, but I did it. So yes, so that's practice. And when we recognize that what that brother or sister did was actually practice, help you, she or he gave you an opportunity to practice not responding with something other than love. And so the more you practice responding with love, the more natural and normal that response becomes, because it feels good. It feels good to consciously make the conscious choice and the decision to respond with love, no matter what the ego is trying to have you respond with. And so whenever that happens, give yourself a little pat on the back, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to let go of our delusions and become the light of the world that God created us to be, in our own unique ways and in our own unique interactions, and with every brother and sister that God sends our way every day. Any other comments or questions in regards to this? Anybody having some thoughts they want to let go of that they've been carrying around this week, and thus dimming their own lovely light?
I guess we're all shiny.
Hey, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read another one. Let you guys choose. Okay, November 25. Okay, we have it's fear and anxiety. No, sorry, that's for next week. Healing the world by healing our thoughts. 2 ways to view judgment, success, and honoring your journey. Feel free to feel your feelings. The world is a reflection of the thoughts we think, and ending the ego's guilt game.
Ooh, do the ego one.
Ending the ego's guilt game.
Yeah. Let's
All right. Okay, but this is November 19th, the inspirational message. It's 2 paragraphs long, and here we go. Ending the ego's guilt game. What God, love, created perfect cannot be made imperfect. Okay, it's talking about you guys. God, being perfection, only creates perfectly. Nothing that tries to place itself in opposition to love all can be real or true. When we recall our divine nature, self-judgment and guilt begin to dissolve away before a light understanding. One who is aligned with love, with the mind of God, has no need for self-judgment or guilt. Where there is no self-judgment, there is no need for guilt. Guilt in and of itself is not real because its source, the ego, is not a real aspect of us. Feeling or judging self or others as guilty is simply a sign of one who is out of alignment with the loving mind of God. If the ego is thinking for you, it is living your life for you. When you feel or judge self or others as guilty, you're choosing the ego's plan for your life over your sacred co-design with the divine. If such a choice occurs, do not despair, for you have free will. Thanks to free will, you can choose to no longer support the ego's mindset, a thought system that has never supported your innocence or the truth in you. And paragraph 2. Today, if guilt comes calling, do not use it to fall further into the ego's dark delusional ditch. Instead, use it as a trigger to recall that being God's creation, you are forever innocent. Nothing you could ever think, say, or do could change God's mind about you, his child in creation. You are forever loved and loved, not judgment and guilt. Judgment and guilt, which the ego uses to try to oppose love, who is all, can never be real or true. Today, drop the ego's fairy tales and fully support only the truth in you as true. When you do, you will close the book on judgment and guilt. Then thank judgment and guilt for showing you that what they offer you, you no longer need or want. Now replace them, the lies, with the truth, with your divine innocence. In doing so, you replace hell with heaven. It is this heavenly mindset that you came to earth to be, represent, and share. Now, knowing this of yourself, practice seeing the same innocence in everyone. When you do, the states of innocence and peace will become your constant and eternal companions. End of paragraph 2. And so the idea for this one, and in the ego's guilt game, is, okay, remember, God is love, God is perfection, right? Perfection does not create imperfectly, right? Perfection only creates perfectly. And you are perfection's creation. So the truth in you is and will always be perfect. Okay, it's only the ego's past programs that have dimmed that light inside of you. And so your only job is to recognize when this dimming occurs and practice letting go of the veils that stand between you and your truth. And one of those veils is when you judge your brother or yourself as guilty. Your job is to practice seeing the innocence in them instead of the guilt. And so when you practice seeing them, the truth in them as innocent, not what their body did, thinks, says, or does in the limited amount of time, is looking past that, looking past the dream, past the story, into who they truly are. This is God's child in creation, and therefore that person is forever innocent. And because we're all one, when we practice seeing our brothers and sisters as innocent, we reinforce that belief in ourselves. And so it is only what we see in our brothers and sisters are simply an external picture of our internal condition and conditioning. Okay? And so when we reinforce God's mercy, God's grace, when we choose to see our brothers and sisters through those lenses, this drops away the veils that stand between us and the light within us, and therefore we can shine bright. And then all we have to do is remember, okay, this brother or sister who God sent my way, he or she was the one who helped me practice remembering that I can see innocence instead of guilt, that I can have mercy and grace instead of judgment and hatred and resentment and thoughts of revenge. And so each and every person, each and every interaction is offering you that opportunity to practice seeing only the truth in others and therefore in you as true. And the more you do so, the more you reinforce your light, the more you feel fulfilled. And why do you feel fulfilled? Aligning with the mind of God, seeing the world through love's eyes, through love's lens. It's because that's what you were created by God to do. You were created by God to be that loving light in the world, to be that expression of love. Whatever expression of love that moment or interaction seems to be requesting, you can ask, listen to the moment or listen to the interaction and ask yourself, okay, what expression of love is my brother or sister requesting right now? And then let me be that expression of love. That's your job in that moment, in that interaction, to be the expression of love that your brother or sister is consciously or unconsciously requesting. And so let's say your brother or sister is in a place of judgment or anger. Then you're there in that moment to be the expression of love, of maybe of forgiveness, of compassion, of mercy, of grace. You're there to light their way back to who they truly are. And so the interaction, if you listen to what the interaction is expressing, you'll learn which expression of love you're there to be. And so if you become a better listener, what expression of love can I have for my brother right now? Or even myself? And then be that. And then be that in each interaction and in each moment. When your brother or sister are in fear or anxious or worry or doubtful, maybe you're there to remind them that, if we look back into our past, things seem to work out. Okay. So everything's going to be okay. Let's place this fear in God's hands. Let's practice trusting God more and see how we feel and what happens if we do that. And so that's the idea for this paragraph. For this daily inspiration. Any comments or questions? Anybody holding on to some judgment or guilt?
I have a question, James.
Yes, go ahead.
So if you're talking to somebody and let's say, like you were talking about if they're in fear or whatever, I'm pretty good at comforting people who are upset. I have a long history of being helpful in that way, which is good. But if you're talking to somebody who's angry and venting about somebody else, you know what I mean? Like they're very upset with something. that the other person did. I get a little stuck there because I want to be supportive, of course, to say, you know, either agree with them that what the person said was unkind and not right and whatever. But I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be more like trying to go the, you know, it's good to forgive route, and I'm sure they didn't mean it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what is the Course of Miracles? I want to be the most helpful, but also spiritually do the correct thing. I do, you know, as I would do myself. If somebody upsets me, I'm like, you know, I can't believe what she said to me, blah, blah, blah. But what is the correct, uh, most spiritual response to that? Because you don't want to rev them up more by saying you're right. You know, that was a crappy thing they said to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know which is the proper, spiritually the proper direction in that.
Well, one of the greatest spiritual tools on earth that very few people know about is called the act of listening. And so sometimes you let them go ahead and vent. Let them go ahead and vent all they want. You know, just be quiet, just listen, just be there for them. Let them tell their story. You know, let it all out. And then you know, ask them how them reacting in that way makes them feel. I mean, do they get any kind of peace? And when they're feeling the sense of judgment and anger and resentment and thoughts of revenge, and is that what they really want? Do they want to feel that? Do they want to hold on to that? Do they want to toss and turn at night because they can't let go of that judgment? And so the first step is always just listen. Just let them tell their story, whatever the story is, and just listen with love. I said up probably a few times. I said, you know, I grew up with my mom and my grandmother, and my grandmother was very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of personality, and so she would go insane sometimes. And I grew up with my mom and then my younger brother and me, and my brother used to love to argue back with my grandmother, and then he became my grandmother's favorite because he would argue back. So he was kind of saying like, you know, whatever it is that you're saying, I disagree with, but I'm at the same level, and so she kind of liked that, you know, that fight. But I never answered back. I just listened to what she had to say, and then when you're listening to whatever story, delusional story it may be, just practice not saying anything. Practice bringing the light into you. Okay, bring in light, bring in peace as you're listening to the story, and just fill yourself with light, fill yourself with peace. Okay, and then little by little you start to feel overflowing with this peace and light, and then just offer this peace and light to your sister or to your brother, not verbally, just energetically. You send them your light, you send them your peace, and you surround them in that peace and light. And little by little, you start to see them that stuff begin to melt away. The stuff that they were so invested in, that anger they were so invested in, begin to melt away, and they don't even know why. And then then you can offer them advice after they've told their story and they've come down. And so there's a lot of things you can do non-verbally that people are not taught to do. You can do energetically. And so listening is the greatest tool you can ever have. And then fill yourself with what you desire to be in this world, which is peace and joy and love and compassion and kindness and mercy and grace. And then offer that energy to your sister or brother who's in that fight, you know. And so no matter what happens, you know, you're always going to be at peace as they're telling their dramatic story. You know, you're always going to be at peace. You know, you listen respectfully, of course, because even though it's a delusion, they believe that it's true, and so that's fine. Let them tell whatever their truth is. Go ahead, Christina.
That what's cool is that as you're sharing what you're sharing, like I've had moments where people can be spewing or unloading, and and I'm okay. And I'm just listening and I'm observing and I'm fine. But then going back to our point earlier, like there have also been moments when I'm engaged in that conversation with someone and I have to remove myself because I'm just not in the place to be able to digest it or to like I guess I'm just in a different place spiritually and emotionally and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to disengage now, you know? So it feels like almost like a dance. But I agree, like people just want to be listened to. But sometimes I also don't have the capacity to listen. At least that's what I've recognized for myself. But sometimes I do, and it's wonderful. But then days like today, I'm like super tired and I don't. And I don't know what it is about. I was actually thinking that earlier, like, what is it about being tired that makes, at least for me and my experience, me so much like my patience is a lot thinner, my processing is a lot thinner, like everything is just like, okay, disengage. It's better to disengage than continue.
Yeah, that reminds me that when I was living with my grandmother, and she was older and she couldn't climb stairs, right? And we lived in a two-story house. So sometimes she would just argue and argue and argue, and then I would just walk up the stairs and then gently close my door. And she couldn't climb upstairs, you know. So I would just hear her from the first floor screaming at me, and I was just laying in bed. So yeah, sometimes it's fine to disengage.
How old were you?
This was maybe like middle school or so.
Okay, so I'm a middle schooler, essentially.
And so yeah, there's no problem disengaging. That's fine. You know, if you've had a like very energetically impacting day and you feel a little bit lacking that energy to be there for them, it's okay to disengage and come back to them. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Remember, everything is in the divine design. It's all divine timing. So no matter what happens, it's going to happen at the right time. And so don't think that this is not a rat race. You don't have to solve every issue now. And so just if you have to disengage for a little while, disengage and come back to it tomorrow. And send them love and peace in the meantime. All right. Any final questions or comments before we close? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I trust we will all practice being loving, having loving thoughts, and supporting only the loving thoughts in us is true, and letting go of everything else.
Thank
And I'll see
you.
you. Thank you,
Bye,
Christina.
guys.
Thank you, Jennifer, Mary, Mike, Isabel, Bethany, Nori.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Take care.
Good night.